Hey YouTube, can we talk about homeschool schedules for a second? This is kind of one of those hot buttons, especially for new homeschoolers. How do you create a homeschool schedule that gets it all in? And I'm going to tell you, looking back over 25 years and coaching homeschoolers and homeschooling myself, that most people overstep or jump over the most critical part of the homeschool schedule, and that is the family schedule. I'm going to tell you that most of the time when I'm coaching, especially young homeschool parents, that the part of their day that needs the most tweaking is bedtime, wake time, and rest time. Those three things in the day. And I always advise that my young homeschool mamas, especially, tighten up bedtime first, then create a morning routine, then orchestrate and design a rest period in the middle of the day so that they create this cycle of rest and predictability into their homeschool day. The reality is that you have time. Unless you started homeschooling today and your child is 19 and they're moving out tomorrow, you have time to get your household under control, to get your homeschool schedule under control, to figure out what works for you. But if you don't get your household routine buttoned up first, it'll feel like you just threw water on a herd of sleeping cats. Is that what a group of cats is called? So a group of sleeping cats, you throw water on it and suddenly there's chaos and confusion and fighting. That's what homeschooling can do to a household that is not already under control. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I always had it right. And as a matter of fact, it's something that I always had to work on, and there was always room for improvement. But when you focus on the household routine first, then there's room for homeschooling to squeeze in. If you focus on the homeschooling stuff first, you're not going to have time to fit all the family stuff in. And more often than not, it's going to cause confusion and contention and frustration. Imagine you have a jar. Oh, you know this illustration. Imagine you have a jar and you have a few really big stones, some pebbles, some sand, and some water, and you want it all to go into the jar. Well, if you fill the jar with water first, and then you put sand in, and then you sprinkle in the pebbles, there's going to be no room for the big rocks. Instead, you start with the empty jar and you put the big stones in first, then you mix in the pebbles, then you add sand, and then you add water. What does that mean, Bekki? It means you put the big things in first. You put the sleep schedules in, the meal times, the character training, the things that at the end of the day, if you miss them, it would be a disaster. You need those things in first. Relationships first, right? Routine first. Get those things in first. The pebbles are all of the fun little things or the little tasks that need to be done in the day. They could be as simple as organizing the drawers in your entire house, or math, English, writing, history, etc. So all those little pebbles. The sand is all the little fun stuff that you can do, right? Where you're just playing in the mud and you're going for walks and you're just looking at the clouds, the dirt. The water has to do with all of the overflow stuff, the fun adventures, the vacations, the hanging out with friends until 4 o'clock in the afternoon and then figuring out what to do with dinner on a whim. But if you do it backwards, if you start with all the fun stuff and then you fill in your life with all the little stuff, you're going to neglect, like me, you're going to neglect the big things that really, really matter. The character training, the heart training, the how your kids learn, the connections with each other within the family. So start with the big things first and take your time. It may take you up to 6 months or a year to nail down a routine and a flow that works for your family. And I need you to know that it's okay. Most people don't jump in and develop a routine and everything works. In fact, they pencil out and design this beautiful routine, and then the kids wake up and ruin everything. It takes time to work it all out. And sometimes you have a great routine that's flowing beautifully, and then life will hiccup. An unexpected pregnancy, an unexpected surgery, or a move and transplant to another location. And suddenly you have to take what works and squeeze it into a different life situation. And you realize, gosh, I have to start from scratch. So give yourself time, give yourself grace. Start with the big things, and then there will be room for all the fun little things. But if you do it backwards, you're not going to have fun, and there's not going to be time for the big things. So learn from the gray hair. Start with the big things first. Start with bedtime. Nail that down. Get morning routine down. Get your afternoon rest period down. Everybody needs it. Whether or not they sleep, that's their business, but they need to rest. So do you, at least a little bit. And then you'll see where you can fit in the academic stuff. It makes more sense that way. So how to homeschool schedule like that.